The anticipated Netflix original comedy series Space Force with Steve Carell has finally launched with a large ensemble cast. Does this new series reach for the stars, or does it crash and burn? Steve Carell stars as 4-star General Mark Naird. He's given command of the newly formed Armed Forces Division Space Force. He's got all eyes on him and extreme pressure from all directions to successfully launch a space program in defense of the United States. The trailer led me to believe that this was going to be an all-out comedy, but in reality it's a dramedy, and sometimes it actually lands way more on the drama side than in the middle of the two. Steve Carell is really good in this, and I found him to be almost instantly likable because he's trying to do the best he can. I mean, he is a by-the-book soldier who is now trying to navigate a whole lot of scientists and a bunch of new recruits, and those new recruits have to go into space at some point. Now, sometimes everything works out for him, other times, not so much. He's doing this weird thing with his voice, though. It's a gravelly, throaty type of speech, but really, I mean, maybe it's to make him sound a bit tougher, like he's just this down and big, rough guy who's in charge of all of the military for space. Oh. But really how it comes across is that he's just got something in his throat that he needs to clear. I appreciate that some of this has a real heart to it. I mean, at times, Carell goes from delivering floundering comedy to some just serious, heartwarming dialogue. I mean, he is convincing and he's great. And like I said, I enjoyed his performance. I found him to be very likable. And I think that's due to a lot of his character just doing the absolute best he can. He has the best of intentions in everything that he's trying to do. Most of everything that he's trying to do. Sometimes the soldier comes in and steps on his good intentions, but at least he's trying. The other players in this are mixed in both their screen time and their performances. And this is a pretty large ensemble cast. Some of them definitely get way more screen time than others. Some are barely there. John Malkovich is the lead scientist in this, and he's great because of his quirky demeanor. He's got some good sarcastic wit that's pretty funny, but at also times he's angry and he's just annoyed. And that comes across so well also. I mean, I enjoyed him in that because in those moments, there's an intensity to him, and when you've seen other performances of his, that they come through, and he's very convincing in his intensity. But then other times he's annoyed, but it's funny to watch how he reacts to other people in his annoyed state. Malkovich has an assistant with Jimmy O. Yang, and he's pretty good. He gets some good lines that he gets to deliver, and for the most part, he's pretty likable. Diana Silvers plays Carell's daughter, and she's pretty good for what she's in, but she also has this side story that's going along in the narrative that follows her, or at least pieces of her, but it's not really resolved. It's just kind of like halfway through they just decided, we're just going to kind of push that off to the side and not really focus on that anymore. Hey, look, shiny thing over here, let's go this way. Veteran improv and character actor Don Lake plays Carell's second in command, and he's likably dumb. At times he plays the fool, but other times, through his personality and some of the lines, he's a little bit psychotic. And some of the times, those lines that he gets to deliver, they're pretty good. I mean, they make you chuckle. Other times, though, they definitely fall flat or they feel really forced. Tawny Newsome is Carell's pilot, and I like her because she's smart in this. She doesn't get a lot of comedic lines, and that's okay. I appreciate her for more of the drama, for more of the serious, or at least the straight-laced type of character. And in and of itself, that makes her just a solid person to go to in the midst of some chaos that may be going on. She's got good charisma and a great personality, and so she's really somebody that you do root for, that you want her to succeed in everything that she's doing. We have Ben Schwartz, who is the social media strategist for Space Force, and he's basically just channeling John Ralphio from Parks and Rec. That's okay, though. I mean, in this, it works because we need this kooky absurdity of a character. I love how he interacts with Carell's character because you have this millennial type with somebody who's probably late Gen X. So they're not seeing eye to eye. Steve Carell isn't in touch with all of the verbiage and the lingo that is out there, especially in the social media sphere. And so it's funny to watch them two go back and forth, and Schwartz's character telling Carell, no, you need to say this because it's going to be awesome, and Carell going, I don't even understand the words that you're saying, and then he tries to say them anyway, and it falls flat to his audience, but to us, we smirked because it was like, well, dude, you said it all with the wrong inflection because you just didn't get it. And so that little bit of timing, that little bit of just back and forth banter with them, I enjoyed that part. I mean, at times he is abrasive, he is annoying because he's right up in your face a lot of the time. But most of that, it does work because, again, I like John Ralphio in Parks and Rec. And so when I get to see more of this, even though it is a total rehash of a character we've already seen from a totally separate show, it still works. Finally, there's Lisa Kudrow, who's playing Carell's wife. And surprisingly, she's barely in this show. She's got a very confusing story arc. There's just something that happens, and all of a sudden it puts her in a situation, and there's no explanation for it. And we're just kind of, okay, I guess, is that to set up some dialogue or some little bits of drama later on down the road? I guess so, but ultimately it kind of felt unnecessary. There's a bunch of other players in this, and at times they provide some good comedy. Some decent comedy or okay comedy. But really, I think a lot of their talent is wasted. I mean, for example, you have the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and this group of actors that make it up, they have gold had they chosen to exploit it, because it's made up of comedians and just funny actors. We have Jane Lynch, Diedrich Bader, Patrick Warburton, and Larry Joe Campbell. And I mean, the timing that they have together, it really can work. If they're given the opportunity to do so, if they let the scene breathe a little bit and have some fun back and forth and just go to it. Otherwise, I mean, really, it feels like an aside. It feels like kind of just a second thought that, oh, we should probably put this in there because it might be funny and we might be able to get one joke out of it. When really, if you had a section going on of these characters, you could play a lot of jokes with it. You could have some really good comedy because of their timing and just their vocal delivery and everything about them. For a show that's supposed to have some good comedic elements to it, a lot of the jokes felt forced in this. Now, some of them did make me chuckle, but I didn't laugh out loud at all through the show. And even though I did chuckle at some of them, especially the sarcastic things and the asides or the under-the-breath comments, most of it just literally fell flat. I'm not sure if this was attempting to be satire, but you can certainly see how it is playing off of the current political climate. Now, one thing I do appreciate is that they poke fun at both sides of the aisle. I mean, everybody's fair game, and so I did find that kind of humorous, that they would at least make fun of just everybody. Some of it is more obvious than others because they never actually say anybody's name, at least currently in office, out loud, but they have references. And you know who they're talking about. They're talking about Trump. They're talking about AOC. They're talking about Nancy Pelosi. They're getting to roast both Democrats and Republicans. And yes, I did say it that way on purpose. But even with them poking fun at that, it's not overly satirical. And so it didn't totally work in that arena as well. The story itself feels a little bit long, and it's almost like maybe they didn't totally know where they were going. Like some of the story is out of reaction to whatever events are happening politically. And then others are like, well, I think though, no, we need to go back towards this way. And then there's even other times where, no, it does feel like they have a true direction to it, but it's just uneven all the way through. And that's, I think, what was just kind of a downer to me in the story that made it feel just longer than it actually was. The final episode is so wildly different in tone than the rest of the series that it really stood out. I mean, this one definitely lands on the drama side and barely any comedic moments in it. And really, it has this oppressive, this dark, this sad feel to it. Now, as a standalone episode, to have something like that, that's not a bad idea. I can get behind a sad or a down type of turn. But in this, it felt out of place, especially because everything else had not been nearly as serious in tone. And then we get to this one and it's like, wait, what happened? We shifted gears way too fast. And is this so that you can maybe set up for season 2? I don't know. Now, the show's soundtrack in this was great. I mean, it was a bright spot, even if most of the great songs came at the very end of the episodes. But still, it was a blast to listen to. The show grew on me a little bit as I watched, but it certainly took a while. My kids came in and would ask me, hey, what do you think about it? And at the beginning, it was like, meh. Then it transitioned to, it's okay. And then finally, it was all right. If I were to judge it based solely on the first episode, I wouldn't have finished the season. But I stuck it out, and I'm not angry that I did so. So how's that for a glowing recommendation, huh? As much as the show did grow on me, it's not something that I would recommend killing a day to watch immediately. I mean, maybe for a casual watch, sure. There's no sex, nudity, or violence, but there is a lot of profanity. I give season 1 of Space Force 2.5 out of 5 couches. Are there any good ensemble comedies, dramas, dramedies that you're watching that you can recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.